Alright, hi everyone, welcome back. I hope your revision has been effective so far. Okay, today we're going to do something that's a bit out of the norm. I know the poverty lecture series hasn't been finished yet, but I just want to interject very quickly to recap a few things regarding your GP examination skills. Okay, so we're talking about paper 1 and paper 2, right? But first and foremost, of course, I'm going to start with paper 1, okay, which we haven't been talking about very in much detail. Now, paper 1 for the new syllabus is slightly more difficult in the sense that the understanding that you need to have of certain issues, the amount of time that you spend with choosing your questions, and the requirements of your content is very different. Okay, so I'm sure I don't need to reiterate these points, alright? But uh, as you know, your content is worth 30 marks and your language is worth 20 marks. Okay, so my advice for you is try to aim for as much content marks as possible. Okay, language marks, you can try to look at some, based on your comprehension, especially some of the more new words that you have learned, okay, or words that you think are a bit more artistic, a bit more deeper in meaning rather than your typical English words. Okay, but really content is the one that you can modify, the one that you can improve the most. Okay, now before I go into the paper, I want to just show you the SEAB syllabus document for GP. Okay, and apart from your society questions, this is a brand new part that they have added for this year's, or rather next year's syllabus. Okay, for the purposes of assessing the skill, the definition of conceptual understanding, which is the majority of what your essay is trying to prove to the examiner, that you have a conceptual understanding of the different issues. Okay, three main things that you need to achieve: make observation of trends and relationships as well as connections across issues and ideas, which means that your argument cannot be limited to just the issue itself. And what I mean is not writing out a point. What I mean is that you should be drawing on different levels, different depth. Okay, this is why I say human intent when it comes to your argument is very important, because if you're just going to confine your argument to that one very narrow argument, very specific argument, it's not going to work because that argument is very, very weak when it comes to the evaluation of the world around there. Okay. Second point, apply or adapt ideas to other contexts where appropriate and relevant, for example, changes in time and or place. Okay, so this is what we mean by having a large range of contexts. That's where, for those of you that learn the enhanced paragraph structure, C1, C2 comes into play here, because you have to have a large range of contexts, be it the minority versus majority, past versus present, whatever have you. You need to have that range, okay, and the range of discussion as well. Okay, the third point is analyze and evaluate issues of local, regional, and global significance and their implications on the individual and society. This is the ultimate problem for most of you. The range that you have is too small. All right, the range that you have is too small. You need to go and give me uh, large evidence, large examples, and you have to discuss your arguments within the global context. Okay, so bring it out, expand on it to something. You have your different levels, right? You have your individual, you have your corporation levels, government levels, you have your universal levels, national levels, international levels. You need to branch out your argument. If your argument is solely sticking within one level, it's not going to work. Okay, and this is especially relevant if you're going for in your society questions, because Singapore is a unicorn country. Singapore is a country which is a very different context from the rest of the world. That's what makes in your society questions easier. However, if your argument is super, super narrow, even within a small country like Singapore itself, then there's a problem there. Okay, so when you're writing your essay, conceptual understanding is very important. Okay, Doesn't matter if you don't understand what I mean theoretically, the structures, the ideas, the thinking tools that we provide to you inside this summary guide will help you to achieve this conceptual understanding. Okay, and it is going in depth. I think a lot more in depth than what many schools are teaching currently. Okay, but again, like I said, this is something that has popped up for next year, which is your first year syllabus. Okay, next year is the first year that this GP syllabus has been tested. Okay, so let's go into it. Now, yeah, so this is the criteria for getting the high band for your content. Okay, term and scope is clearly understood and defined with some subtlety. Okay, means that you don't define it. Oh, I define this term as this. Please don't do that. Okay, that is a very, very, very bad way to start off your definition. Okay, definition should be weaved into your paragraph. Okay, without being very clear, but you still let the guy reading it understand, oh, this is where my this person is going into the discussion from. Okay, you don't literally tell me I define it as this, because that's very, very abrupt. It disrupts the flow. Okay, engagement with the question is at the conceptual level is clearly evident. Okay, this is what I was saying just now. Nuance and measured observation of trends and of relationships are made, connections. Okay, this is all I said regarding conceptual understanding, right? Fully appropriate and wide-ranging illustration is used and developed throughout to support the points made within the argument. Okay, means that you need to have a very large range of evidence and examples. Fully relevant, addressing the requirements of the question throughout. So make sure in your point, in your link, answer the question. Okay, this is the easiest thing you can do. Even if you're not confident with your content itself, at least you can get a passing grade as long as you answer the question appropriately. Okay, especially so if you want to get a high band. There's a well-balanced discussion and consideration of different perspectives and contexts, demonstrating developed analysis and evaluation of the issues. Now, when I mean balance, I don't mean contradict your argument. I don't mean give me one paragraph agree, one paragraph disagree. Especially if they are the same idea. If you're telling me, okay, I'll just give you a very quick illustration, right? If you're telling me, oh, this particular anime is the best anime I've watched because of this. Okay, good. Next paragraph. But this anime is not the best anime that I've ever watched because of this. You realize what you just did? That is what is known as contradictory flow. Okay, because first paragraph you tell me is the best anime you ever watched because all these very nice reasons. Next paragraph, you're phrasing your argument as if what you said in the first paragraph is completely and utterly false. You contradicted yourself because you already tell me, and you're supposed to tell me that this is great, this is the best. But then in the second paragraph, you just contradicted yourself by saying it's not the best. So even if you're doing your agree-disagree type of paragraph structure, you need to be very careful of how you phrase your argument. Because if you do that for your 4 paragraphs, one agree, one disagree, one agree, one disagree, you realize by the end of it, you are already completely negating your whole essay. Because the first agree point is negated by the first disagree point. Second agree point is being negated by the second disagree point. And then you just have nothing. Why did I even read it then? Right? So you need to be careful of how you bring in balance. Balance is not just this is agree, this is disagree. I have both perspectives, therefore it's balance. No argument does that. No way you can persuade somebody with such an argument. Because it just shows me, oh, you know your content. Yes, you know your content. But you don't know how to make up your mind. Okay, so you need to be very careful of how you manage your balance. Okay, and the structures that is recommended will help you do that. Okay, so this is the suggested paragraph structure. Paragraph 1, your introduction, background, current situation, points to cover. Okay, very simple. We just keep it at that minimum. Okay, make it interesting. You don't need to give rhetorical question if you don't want. You don't need to give a story if you don't want. Really up to you. Doesn't really matter as long as you do it with some kind of artistic flow. Okay? Paragraph 2 to paragraph 5, your body paragraph. Each body paragraph should have at least topic sentence example evaluation link. At the very least, that is the minimum you can go. Okay, later I'll talk about it. Paragraph 6, your conclusion, past, present, call to action. The most important is your call to action. Okay, again, you can link back to the introduction, you can end off with the inspiring quote, you can end off with a rhetorical question, whatever lah, huh? Doesn't matter as long as you have the call to action. Okay, now you may have been taught differently, but this is the very, very simple list of possible essay questions. Okay, first and foremost is the one that everybody knows, your basic polarity. Basic polarity is just yes or no. That's all to it. Okay, if you're the kind of person that likes to discuss yes or no in a very systematic fashion, maybe basic polarity is for you. Okay, consider the view that the media encourages undesirable behavior. Yes or no. Very simple, right? So your context is always yes or no. Now, first basic constant that you have is a temporal one, which means time-based. Okay, does religion still have a role in the modern world? Okay, the keyword here is still, and basic constant temporal questions always have things related to time. Still, no longer, anymore, increasing, decreasing. Okay, all these things are related to time-based consideration, which means that your context should be along the lines of past versus present. Okay, C1 is your past, C2 is your present. Significance constant is the fact that one is more significant than the other. Okay, some of you might call this okay, we go call it significance. Let's not complicate it. The arts are nothing more than a luxury. Okay, words like mere, simply, just, nothing, anything more than. Okay, this is all about whether this factor that's given to you is that significant or not. Okay, so the context is insignificant versus significant. Absolutes. Consider the view that people imprisoned for crimes should lose all their rights. Okay, and this is by far the most common basic constant. Okay, because it is quite easy. Okay, not gonna lie. Okay, never ever, always, necessarily, or any inevitable. Okay, context is always absolute versus real versus absolute. All right. And by the way, yes, this is the context that you have to establish. Okay, for your balance, especially if you're doing the enhanced structure. Okay, I'll go more into the structure in a moment. Now, the next three are questions that I urge you to avoid. Okay, you only do it if you have time or you really have nothing else to write. Okay, first type is your degree constant. Consumerism is more of a curse than a blessing. The keyword is more than, less than, better than, worse than. Why is it not advisable to do? It is because how do you judge something is more than or less than something? There's no, it's not a very easy argument to come up with, which is why during exam conditions especially, this is a very difficult question to do. Okay? Same as proving an extent. Too many historical figures, I think I'm missing something. Historical figures are famous for the wrong reasons. Keywords being too many, so much. Extent, right? I'm saying this is too much, this is too much, this is too much, means that I am judging it as something that is to a very large extent already. But the question is, especially if you're going balance, how do you prove something is too much or too less? It's difficult. It is very unconvincing argument. Okay, so proving and extent questions, I do not advise you to do. Okay, same if you see your question is so complicated. Look at this question. It is not winning but taking part which matters. How acceptable is this as an approach to life? There are multiple clauses, multiple constants in one question, which means that you have to address the multiple clauses and multiple clauses in every body paragraph. It is a must because remember they said you have to answer the question throughout. It is not winning, clause 1, but taking part, clause 2. Clause 3, which matters. So you have to talk about winning, taking part, and which one matters. Okay? 3 things that you need to answer. Please don't do it. It's a very difficult argument to come up with. Not saying these questions are impossible. It is possible, but it will take a very long time for you to come up with something that is persuasive enough. Okay, especially at Cambridge standards. Okay, so just focus on the rest, all right, your basic stuff. Okay, so guiding keywords, you can read this on your own, okay? But words to look out for is will, would, may, might. Will, would is a future tense, okay? If something is asking you to prove that this thing happens in the future or this thing will happen in the future, how are you going to prove something that hasn't happened yet? Right? You can't. Shouldn't attempt. Okay? May, might is speculative. Okay? So this may happen. That might happen. How do you know? Same thing. You don't know if it will really happen. So why are you arguing for something that you don't know? So shouldn't attempt. Okay, everything else, okay, you can use the keywords to think about what the question really requires you to answer. If it's anything related to action, do, did, done, does, doing, okay, it should be your answer should be your response rather should be answering the how. How is this being done? Okay, BRM is, was, were, been, being suggests an identity. I am doing this. He is being this. They are doing that. They are being that. Okay, it suggests something related to the identity of an organization, of somebody, of a government, or whatever. Okay, and therefore you should be answering the why. Why do you have this particular identity? Okay, if it's have, has, having, or had, okay, suggests to me that it is talking about ownership or possession. Okay, and therefore you should be answering what is this ownership? What is the thing in possession? Okay. Your verbs, modal verbs, can and could suggest to me ability. I can do this. I could do that. She could do that. Okay, so you need to examine the function. What is the thing? What is the the ability of the thing? What is the function of the thing in the real world? Okay, shall and should suggest obligation, and more often than not, blame. Okay, shall and should suggest obligation, accountability, and blame. And so you should be examining who is responsible for whatever thing that's happening. Okay, so these modal verbs will help you to guide your brainstorming and thinking process even more. Okay, human curiosity, how, what, and why is essentially helping you to think about the human intent. Okay, so we will always think about how, why, and what, right? So you can use that to think about, hey, what is this person thinking about? What is this organization focused on? Why are they focused on this thing? So use that all to your benefit. Okay, how, why, and what is for your benefit, because it will show you and it will guide you into what to answer so that you can answer the question effectively. Okay, your brainstorming process is very simple. First things first, look out for the keyword. Based on what I said just now, the question that shouldn't be done, cancel it. Okay, question that have basic concepts, mark it out. Tell me, is it absolute, significance, temporal, whatever. Okay, make a cancellation note of the questions you know cannot be done under the time condition. More likely than not, especially for school papers, you would have already cancelled most of the questions. Okay, choose at least 3 questions that you're most confident in, and using the brainstorming tool I'm going to go through in a moment, come up with minimally 5 strong paragraphs. 5 strong paragraphs. So these include your content, your intent, and your example. Okay, remember your example should be large scale, wide ranging, right? So at least 4 example per paragraph, 2 example for context, 2 example to use in your paragraph. Not saying that you need to use all 4, but you have to have at least these 4 to ensure that you have a strong paragraph. Okay? Select the question with the strongest points and one in which you have the greatest interest. Okay, so first and foremost, go and look at it. Okay, whatever that you feel, oh, this paragraph has very strong points. This is a good one. This is easy to write one. I'm interested in it. When you're interested in it, naturally the words will come to you. Okay, so select one that's strong and you have the greatest interest in. Okay, first, determine the conclusion. What is your stand? What is your final belief? Okay, is it whatever lah? Okay, based on whatever you're talking about. Next, rearrange your paragraph for flow. In fact, this is only for those doing the enhanced version. Okay, And then you should start with, the more basic one, your SPE, social, political, economic, your six players and stuff. Everything that is so basic, so less important, okay, put it at the front. As the essay goes on, you need to increase the depth. You need to increase the breadth. Okay? If all your paragraph, right, are at the same level, which means all looking at surface level, it's not a very interesting essay. Okay? So start with the least impactful one, end off with the most impactful one. Okay, usually your meta point or something that is very, very large scale, very, very impactful in nature. For those of you doing the TEL traditional approach, make sure your flow is not contradictory, like I said just now. And then introduction, least important thing, okay, just look at it as what is the history behind it, what's the modern issue, and of course state your stand and what you're discussing. Okay, brainstorming techniques are very, very simple. I've separated them into basic, intermediate, and advanced. Okay, you can use individually, you can use it together, you can use it as a hybrid, up to you. Okay, but there is more than enough brainstorming technique here for you to consider so that you have more than enough points. Okay, now let's start with the basic ones. Basic SPE is the most basic that you can go for: social, political, economic. This is, I suggest you use this as your baseline. You use SPE and cross it with the rest of your brainstorming techniques. That will make it so much easier for you to think about. Okay, social issues, political issues, economic issues. I don't need to reiterate. Country type. Okay, country type, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 country types. I will go into that later. Players, you have 6. Okay, so together you can, if for those of you that take math, you can go and count the number of combinations that you can use. More than enough points for you to write. Okay, basic. Everybody can do this. Everybody should be doing this. Intermediate is a little bit more challenging, but is still perfectly okay for most of you. Conditions of modern day, this is regarding the 21st century context. Okay, increase in science and tech, increase in media use, globalization, modernization, liberalization, individualization. All of these you can cross it with your basic so that you can investigate, you can start to go into depth about the human intent. For range, we are looking at personal level all the way to universal level. Okay, this again can be used especially with your 6 player. Okay, personal is your individual level. Universal is must be 100% every human on earth will do this thing. Okay, so the range here is for you to consider, especially if you're doing the enhanced approach, where your flow will be. Okay. Now, for moral roots, conditions of survival, context of prosperity, and the 21st century model, these are all advanced techniques that if you're ready, you should use it. But if you're not ready, there's no obligation for you to use it. But this will make your paragraph reach the highest and deepest level possible. Okay, so I'm going to go into the basic one first. Country type. Okay, there are 7 country types, and they are often in, there's big and small, young and old. Here, all these are versus lah. Okay, again, non-exhaustive examples that are provided here, but you can definitely use it in conjunction with SP. Okay, because different countries with different conditions will have different considerations. Okay, and so let's just go into it. Big countries versus small countries. Okay, there are considerations for things like land, things like resources. All these will differ a lot. Okay, young and old. Okay, there are considerations for nation building, stability. All of these things will matter very differently. Okay, free and controlled country, I think this is pretty much obvious for all of you, especially for those of you that are interested in politics. Okay, and also things like censorship and stuff like that. Free and controlled, very much easy. HFI stands for Human Freedom Index. Yes. Okay. Okay, East and West, your difference in culture and ideology. East culture is all about things like non-violence, harmony, work ethics, respect, compassion, stuff like that. Okay, West is all about individualism, capitalism, democracy, rights, progressivism, secularism, neutrality, welfare, all these things. So there are 2 different classifications of ideology. Okay, and therefore you have very different outcomes. Same for religious and secular. Okay, religious will be mainly focusing on why we have to have religion. Why is the religion propagated in this way? Why must we follow the religion to the T? Whereas secular countries will focus a lot more on individual values, will focus a lot more on national values that are derived out of necessity and not of something that is imposed. Okay? Okay, rich and poor, same thing. The rich countries and poor countries have very different considerations. Okay, rich countries will bother more about how to maintain their wealth, how can we help other people, or how do we keep ourselves neutral so that our money is not wasted on different things like that. Poor countries will be focusing on developing their own economy. They'll be focused on themselves, helping themselves before they help other people. Okay, and of course, unicorn countries are what we call the exceptions. These are countries that may not necessarily conform to general standards, general ideas. Okay, because of the constant type of different nature of their country is already different inherently. So countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is a country that surprisingly has been under conflict and division since the colonial era all the way until now, they're still having it. Okay, North Korea, okay, one of the only few countries in the world that is completely or nearly completely isolated from the rest of the world. Singapore, okay, our country is very ethno-culturally diverse, very prosperous, yet very small. Okay, so we are doing things very differently from the rest of the world. Iran is one of those countries that is unstable yet very religiously conservative, and same with Afghanistan under the Taliban. Now, Bhutan is a very much a unicorn because Bhutan, number one, if you didn't know, Bhutan is in the middle of China and India in the Himalayas. Okay, they are one of the countries that doesn't actually measure their GDP, gross domestic product. Okay, they are measuring happiness. They have something known as GNH, gross national happiness. Okay, and another fun fact: Bhutan is carbon neutral. It's the only country in the world that is carbon neutral. Okay, Bhutan is an outlier. It does things very differently. It wants to be peace loving. It wants to be not. They are they are basically that friend who doesn't want to get involved in anything, absolutely nothing. Okay, they are one of the very few countries in the world to not recognize the majority of the modern day countries today. Okay, because they really just don't care, right? Japan, right? Innovative and progressive to a certain extent. Israel, their context is they are surrounded by Arab states, okay, which means they are almost under constant threat, okay, by them. Timor-Leste, the newest country in the world, okay, they are one of the few countries that still new, still nation building, you can call it that. And Mongolia, which is very sparsely populated, very nomadic in culture, and so you will see the very large difference in terms of their governance as well. Okay, so these unicorn countries are good to consider. Now, the players should be easier to understand because the players here are essentially the main thing that you'll be focusing on when it comes to crossing with SPE, because these are what is most accessible to all of you. Now, individuals, obviously, you know, they are just a single person. They have different influence, different powers, but the key thing is that they have high interaction. So you're talking about things like healthcare, things like morality, things like beliefs, things like religion. Okay, perhaps individual is a good one to consider because those are a lot of self-based ideas. Okay, moving up, governments you can almost use it for anything because governments are part of our lives through and through. Okay, they're responsible for governing this. There are different types of governing systems, and they can interact with, you know, basically every other stakeholder out there because governments have to regulate people, regulate companies, fight with other countries, you know, be a part of your international organizations and monitor criminal activity. So they are basically, you know, cooperating or managing every other stakeholder here. Corporations, remember the most important thing for corporation is that they are money, money, money. For profit. Okay, everything that they do will almost be 100% related to gaining profit. Okay? Non-government organizations are independent, they are non-profit, and they work towards very specific goals. And so NGOs can be wide-ranging, they can be small, they can be local, they can be international. And most importantly, they collaborate with other people. Okay? IGOs is your supranational organizations, which means organizations like the UN, EU, WTO, stuff like that. Okay, things means that multiple governments come together to work on specific or general issues, right? So there are different, different IGOs have different mandates, different power. For example, the UN has the power to send in peacekeepers, to send in to demand resolution or to impose sanctions. Okay, but really their influence is not that high, whereas organizations like the EU actually have a parliament made up of the different member states which can pass universal regulation for everybody in the EU. Okay, so they have different mandates, different scope, different membership, but the key point is that they are amalgamation of many different nations. And last but not least, your criminal syndicates. Yes, criminal activity is a very big consideration for the world. If you're not thinking that, it means you're very naive. Okay, a lot of times criminal syndicates are running a lot of the major things in the world, especially economy or even political domains in some countries. Okay, so they are organized group engaged in illegal activities outside the law but have significant impacts on stakeholders. And so they often exploit the gaps left by the governments, left by organizations, okay, and they exploit the gap to gain the influence, to gain the profit, to gain the prestige. All right, so examples include your yakuza, your cartels, your drug smugglers, and stuff like that. Okay, so you can use these 6 players in conjunction with SP, in conjunction with country types, to gain a large ranging perspective on the issue. Okay, and this is the easiest way you can get your range arguments out. Okay, so make sure you use this. Now, meta is a very, very, very deep level argument. Okay, these are the highest possible thinking points, and they don't focus on specific issues. They don't focus on surface level issues. They are focusing wholly on investigating cause and effect of every single thing through human intent. Okay, through human intent. Now, not every student can use meta. Only the people that have the true maturity and a very large worldview, very deep worldview and openness of mind can utilize meta context, especially in an exam setting. Okay, but please feel free to learn about them. Okay, moral roots is essentially the foundation. What is moral and what is immoral? How do we judge them and how do we use them? Okay, so there are a few conditions of morality that we are discussing in this one that would actually shape how the world works. Okay, harm versus care. Now, this is related to attachment. This is related to emotion. This is ability to help other people. So virtues of kindness, gentleness, nurturance, all of these come from harm versus care. So the guiding question here that I've given you is that number 1, what is the expected response by a normal human? For example, when somebody fall down, normal people will maybe they'll laugh at you first, okay, but the normal response is to go and take care of them, right? Help them come up. What's that? Are you okay? Stuff like that. That's normal. Most of us are like that, okay, because we have the ability to feel and dislike the pain of others. But please consider, in terms of range, what is the response of someone who does not adhere to this condition? You can call them sadistic, you can call them selfish, whatever, but they are still human and their intent matters. So what would someone who doesn't adhere to care do in that context? Maybe you fall down, they still go and kick you. Harm. That is the key idea. Okay? It is somebody that doesn't adhere to the norm, doesn't adhere to the norm of care, but they still play a major part in the situation, right? They can make the situation worse than it already is. Okay, next one is fairness versus cheating. Okay, this is related to something known as reciprocal altruism, right? Basically, all you need to know is that it's related to justice, rights, and autonomy, these things. if you say something is fair, right, how much can we trust someone or something, right? The world is never fair. We know that the world is never fair. So how much are we going to put our trust into a system, into somebody, into something, even though we are very clear that the world will never be fair to us? So how much can we trust? And so second point is cheating or going against fairness ever righteous? If today I say I want fairness among these two people, right? But if I have the great justification to prove that one of these two people do not deserve equal treatment, is it right for me to challenge the fairness and making the thing unfair? Is it right for me to cheat the system to gain fairness when I know I don't deserve fair? That is the condition here, fairness versus cheating. Okay? Loyalty versus betrayal. Now, this is related to things like patriotism, self-sacrifice, one for all for one. This is the very common thing that you have heard, right? It's related to loyalty, it's related to betrayal, right? So, first and foremost, group mentality, herd mentality. What are the shared values that a group has? What are the benefits or challenges of being in a group? And why do people want to be included? Okay, the reason for inclusivity is the reason why people join gangs, even though they are fully aware of the negative repercussions they might give. Right? Because they gain loyalty. They gain a group of people who are willing to fight for them regardless of what happens. So one for all for one, the idea that I want to be a part of something larger than myself. This is why groups form. This is why alliances form. This is why nations form. Okay, so loyalty versus betrayal is one that I'm sure almost every single one of you have been through for both loyalty and betrayal. Okay, authority versus subversion. Now this one is relatively new, okay, because it is almost a guarantee that in an Asian society you would have heard we must follow authority regardless. Okay, but when we talk about leadership, followership, we talk about deference to legitimate authority, respect for traditions. How much should we actually respect them? That is the question we're asking here. Okay, so number one, what is considered legitimate authority? Just because you are in power doesn't mean you are legitimate, right? So you're a humanities student, you should know this, right? No, it doesn't, right? What makes somebody a leader, and why do people follow leaders? So what's the difference between a common man and somebody who can lead the country? What is the difference? And why do these people that can lead eventually become the leader? Okay, why is anarchy and chaos unacceptable to most? Even in the freest countries in the world, you realize nobody tolerates anarchy. Nobody tolerates chaos. Why? Ask yourself, why? Why does somebody choose to go against authority? Is it because of the loyalty? Is it because they betrayed us? Is it because they are cheating? They are not giving us fairness, or they are harming us? Why would I choose to go against authority? And why is it justified in some cases? And last but not least, what makes something worth following? Is it, same thing, traditions, for example. Just because it is a tradition from 2000 years ago that is still practiced until today, does it mean I still have to follow it in the modern day? Why or why not? Okay, so this is authority versus subversion. Sanctity versus degradation. This is related to disgust, contamination, and it even goes into religion. Okay, religion that the body is a temple and that cannot be desecrated by immoral activities and contaminants, but it is not wholly religious. Okay, this is something that every human has. The idea that some things are sanctity, some things cannot be degraded. Some things are just that precious. Okay? So why are these things considered sacred? Why do people not want to change what is sacred? And what is the inherent value in change? Okay, so this whole route here okay, is really related to why can't we change? Why can't we change? Okay, and you'll start to realize that why can't we change is a lot to do with I take what has happened in the past, I take these traditions, I take the current belief that I have as sacred. And because I take them as sacred, I will not allow anything to happen to them. Okay, that is the idea of sacredness and degradation. Okay, liberty versus oppression. Now, this is related to the idea of resentment, reactance, and it is the foundation of humanity to feel some sort of tensions toward people that restrict your liberty. Okay, so why is freedom so important? Why is the right of choice of value to most people? Can freedom be ignored in some cases? Okay, this is something that is quite easy to think about. And why do some seek to take away the right of choice of others? Okay, there must be an intent to it. So this whole moral roots thing will give you an overview of why some people do some things. It will let you have a structured way of thinking about human intent before you go into the actual points that you can use for your paragraph. Speaking of which, your paragraph 4, like I say, increases in impact, right? Paragraph 4 is about the problem of humanity specifically. Okay, so this is talking about condition of survival. Condition of survival is on the basis that relevance and instinct is natural to all humans, and therefore we gain a fear from it. It is because of this fear that problems all across the world, regardless of topic, regardless of idea, problems occur because of fear. And so your meta paragraph here helps you to structure your paragraph that discusses the human intent behind all these issues, behind why this problem exists, beyond the surface level, beyond, for example, if we say climate change, right? It goes beyond the level of, because of carbon dioxide emission, because we are cutting down trees, because we're doing this, because we're polluting the oceans, therefore we have climate change, therefore our environment is failing. It goes beyond that. It goes into why are we polluting the waters? Why are we cutting down trees? And why do we refuse to curb carbon emissions? Why can't we reach the goal of 1.5 degrees Celsius maximum? It goes into the why, no longer the what. Okay? So this is the why. So why does this problem exist? First condition, scarcity. I will never have enough in this world. This is the fear of what? Fear of a lack of resources. Economics students should know scarcity is at the foundation of economics. Why? Because people act irrationally when you are scarce of something. For example, if today I say it is a possibility that we're going to have a scarcity of food and water, what is most people's immediate reaction? Go and run to the supermarket and buy food and water, right? As we saw during the COVID pandemic when we first announced there might be a circuit breaker. Right, so it's a base of fear on perceived lack of resources, and especially for developing nations. The relevance in terms of scarcity is the pursuit of actual resources because they don't have resources. They are scarce of resources they need for nation building, so they are fearful of that, and so they are driven to get it, even if it means invading another country. Okay? For developed nations, the relevance of scarcity lies in the lack of power. Right? Countries like the US, UK, France, even China, Russia. What are they scared of? They are scared of not having power. And therefore their scarcity is based on, I need to get more power. I will do whatever I want, whatever I need to get the power. Okay? Separation. I am me and you are you. Your issues do not affect me, so I do not care. This is why apathy exists. Right? This is why apathy exists. If you have the attitude of separation, means that nothing that happens outside of your purview matters. You are being individualistic. You're being apathetic. However, most of humanity has limited separation. Because most of us, our natural, biological human instinct is to go and help other people when they need the help. But if we translate it into a larger context, you will realize the fear of losing this separation when problems get too big to solve, when we want to avoid blame, there is a fear of losing separation, especially for countries who are protectionist, people who want to discriminate. Right? Protectionist ideas, right? Economics term again. Protectionism refers to the idea that I want to be kept separate. I want to protect my own domestic economy, my own domestic affairs. I don't want to involve myself in the global economy. I don't want to involve myself in a global conflict because I already am fearful of losing what I have within. I'm fearful of losing the control of myself, my country. Why am I spending additional resources and time caring about what other people are doing? Right? So that is the essence of discrimination and protectionism. This is one because of a fear of a lack of separation between you and me. Okay? I'm speeding through this because I don't have a lot of time, and I know you don't have a lot of time to listen to the lecture, so I'm speeding through it. Okay? If you have any clarifications, please come and ask me, right? Positionality refers to the fact that there is a right, there's a wrong, and I, as a person, I, as a government, always want to be right. And this is based on anger. The desire to always be right is on a want for authority due to the fear that there is never enough. Right? And so the idea is that because I feel so strongly that this thing I'm arguing for is right and I need to be right. I need to be right because I deserve to be right. Everybody else cannot be right. Okay? And so it is a fear that there is never enough. There is never enough authority. I need the authority, not you. I want all the authority for myself. And this applies to developed countries like I said, the US, like UK, Russia, China. They want authority because they are fearful that they will lose the authority. Okay? So an example of this in the individual sphere is activism. Okay? Positionality is almost always the cause of activism. What this current situation is wrong, what I believe is right, and therefore I'm going to impose my righteousness on the current situation. Okay? And so activism doesn't work because of this fundamental reason. Because they are always angry. Because they always want the authority. They want a moral authority to be right. But you realize it doesn't work. Anger does not solve issues. And therefore, if you actually want to make something happen, if you actually want to move forward, please be positive. Please work together. Positionality is based on anger, and anger will never get you anywhere. Okay? Inevitability. I believe that whatever will happen, so there is nothing I can do. Alright? So inevitability is based on the feeling of despair. Right? It's going to happen anyways lah. So I'm just not going to bother about it. It will happen. It is what it is. Right? So it is a perception that there is no choice and nothing can prevent what is going to happen, so there's no need to do anything. In fact, it helps us to prevent loss. I'm fearful of losing resources to solve a problem that cannot be solved, right? So why not, if I have this attitude, let's just save the resources for something else. So it's a fear of loss. And this again applies to most developed countries, right? It's going to happen anyways. Let's not waste time and money on that. Let it happen, it will happen. Whatever happens next, let's move on. Okay? Inevitability. Last one. More, better, different. In order to be relevant in the modern world, I need to have greed. In order to be more, better, and different for everyone else, so I can stand out. Again, it is fear-driven. All of these fears, all of these problems, they are based on one fundamental thing, which is fear. Okay? The fear here is one that I think almost every single one of us has thought about before. What if I lose relevance? What if nobody cares? Right? So it is the fear of losing our safety. It is the fear of losing our relevance in the modern world, especially in a world where relevance is so damn important. Okay, and the problem with this attitude is that we will lose sight of what is truly essential to us. right? For very simple example, very personal example. If I want to be more, better, different, I need to earn money, right? So I work day and night, 9 to 5 plus overtime. I work and work and work and work. I get the money. I am relevant. But I sacrifice what? I've sacrificed my health. I've sacrificed my family, my children, my wife, my family, my parents. I sacrificed entertainment. I've sacrificed everything else that is supposed to be essential to me. I've lost it all in the pursuit of relevance. Relevance that may not even last. That is the problem with more, better, different. Okay, so all of this, right? All of this will help you in thinking about why do problems exist? Why do we have the problems that we have in today's modern world? And if you want to see an example of how to use condition of survival and later on the resolution, the solution, right? Context of prosperity, you can look at the model essay. Paragraph 4 and 5 are talking about these 2 points. Okay, paragraph 4 is about FOMO, which is related to more, better, different. And paragraph 5 is resolution to FOMO, okay, which is more about the focus on the individual. Okay, so speaking of which, meta paragraph 5 is all about resolution. It is all about the context of prosperity. It's all about, we have to get rid of our survival mindset in order to thrive. So this is where you can bring in for your call to action. Even for those of you using the be it the traditional approach, the enhanced approach without meta, you can still use these considerations as your call to action. Okay, so it is based on the idea that prosperity is due to essentialism, and the only way to achieve success is by countering the fear that we talked about just now. Okay, first condition that we have for prosperity is the possibility. It is the perception that there is always a choice that we can make. When we are open and we are willing to accept different outcomes of different things that happen, we can actually introduce alternatives. Right? When we realize, hey, there is something that we can do, there is a choice that we can make, it's not inevitable. We can actually make a difference because I can now suggest alternatives. Alternatives that can cause dispute, alternatives that can make people think deeper, further, and in the end, I can move the world forward. It is not something that's a gone cause. There is a choice. Community is about a group of people coming together to deliver strong outcomes. There is inherently strength and opportunities in numbers. And so when I get a collective whole, I can actually help myself achieve larger, more ambitious goals. As an individual, I may not be enough, but that doesn't mean I can't solve anything. When I get people of the same mindset, they believe the same thing, there is a strength there. This is most powerful at the global level, as I said there. Yes, climate change can be solved, but how does it be solved? You need a group of people, and in this case, the group of people is all of us. It takes just one country. It just takes one country. And our climate change objectives can be removed. It can never be reached. Right? So it is about the community. It's about coming together and achieving great things. For example, those of you that study geography, you should know about the Kyoto Protocol. Right? It's about coming together. We can actually make a difference by coming together. Okay? Gratitude is about the idea that I have enough and I will always be enough. Okay? Allows for refocusing. Basically, instead of adhering to the herd mentality, instead of adhering to the norm, I am empowered to make my own choice. I am empowered to do the things that I want to do, what I believe, so that I can achieve my own very difficult goals. Right? So when you are enough, when you feel like you're enough, you don't need to rely on the you don't need to rely on the acceptance by conforming to the norms. You don't need that because you're already enough yourself. Right? So it empowers you to achieve your goals. It empowers you to achieve what you want to achieve and not just follow everybody else. This helps to amplify your community context, right? This will lead to this. This is most powerful when every one of your individual in this community has the idea of gratitude. Your power is so damn powerful when you combine community and gratitude together. Okay? Wisdom. Wisdom is about going through failure, going through experiences. It's not the end of the world. It is that once we go through the failures, once we realize what is wrong, we have new skills, new knowledge that we can actually use to make a difference. Okay? A reflection. The most important thing is reflection. We can consolidate what we have learned from our life. Okay? And this is especially problematic. This is especially important in a world where many of us don't even want to acknowledge the fact that we have failed. Right? We choose to argue that, no, I didn't fail because I did this, I did that, I'm actually doing this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because when you argue it out, you're diminishing the value of failure. Failure has value. In fact, it has more value than success. Because failure allows you to be driven, allows you to learn and do better. That's why reflection is important. That's why acknowledgement of failure is important. Okay? So this is actually very, very important for especially people like world leaders. Government leaders will never be always correct. But the true strength comes when they are able to admit from their mistakes and learn from them. And they can actually become more powerful leaders. And the last one is abundance. I have plenty and I will always have plenty. The keyword is plenty. Plenty means more than enough. Okay? I have abundance of things. I have too much. Okay? So this allows the individual to have content. Okay? I'm content with what I have, so I don't need the greed. I don't need to be better. I don't need to be more because I already have enough. In fact, I have more than enough. So I don't need to get more than enough already. Right? I don't need to get more because I already have so much. This helps to diminish this greed. Diminishes your need to be relevant. Diminishes your need to be different. Because you're already so much. Why do I need more? That's the idea of abundance. Okay, so this meta is used in conjunction. Even if you're not using this in your paragraph, you don't know how to write a meta paragraph, it's okay. Use this as your thinking tool. Use it as something for you to think about when you look at your issues, when you look at the questions. This can give you very powerful conclusions, very powerful introductions. Okay, so it is very useful. Now, the Singapore meta context, okay, like I said, it's a unicorn country. Because there's in your society question, because you have AQ, okay, I'm going into this very quickly. We need to see where Singapore differs from the rest of the world. Then we can understand our country better. Okay, so I'm going to compare independence in 1965 versus today. In 1965, natural condition is what? Singapore has no strategy that we cannot defend ourselves. Singapore's development is strangled. We are so small. We cannot develop. Okay? We have no domestic market. We have little economy of scale. We cannot scale out anything because we have nothing to begin with. And we are scarce talent. Our locals are uneducated. Our locals are living in slums. And so we have to start importing talents. What is today's context? Is it the same? No, it's not the same. Most of it has changed. Today, we have technological capabilities and reach. We are the first country to fully implement 5G, right? We have great reputation, great influence in the modern world. We have innovation in using our limited land. We have greenified buildings. We have URA master plans. We have used our small size as an advantage. We can actually respond to major changes in the world very quickly because it is easier to control a small country. That's why we succeeded in COVID at the start, at least. Okay? But one thing has not changed. Singapore still has little economy of scale. That's why we are expanding overseas. Singapore alone, our small island, we cannot scale anything. We cannot make anything bigger than it already is. So we expand overseas, we get other people to do that for us. That is the modern day context. In terms of people, like I said, At independence, we are all immigrants. We are uneducated. We have no skills. We are talking about state before the nation. You know, your Chinese, your Indians, Malays, okay, they are not thinking about Singapore, Singapore, Singapore. They are thinking about, hey, I'm from China. I'm from Malaysia. I'm from India. I'm from Indonesia. There's no Singapore. There's no identity. They are all thinking about their own background. And at that time, nobody wants to be friends with us because we have no links, we have no culture, we have no economy, we have no politics. Nobody wants to be aligned with us. But today we have changed that. Today we build harmony by making English our lingua franca, our common language. We have strong support in the region. Within an hour, any of our allies can come to our assistance when there's a need. Today we are not based on mutual culture, we are based on mutual interests. Okay, we have diplomacy with every other country in the world because we are basing out of something that everybody loves. We all love money. And that is what our diplomacy is focused on. Not about culture. We're not talking about we are allied with you because you are Muslim. We are not allied with you because you are a Christian nation. We're not allied with you because you have a large population of Chinese. No, we don't care about that. We care about money. And so does every country in the world. So we use the diplomacy on mutual interest and not mutual culture. That is why we have so many allies. That is why Singapore is so successful overseas as well. Sustainability, 1965, we have no natural resources, we are a price taker, and we need to purchase everything because we cannot produce anything. Today, it is different. Today, we have human capital investment. We are investing into the one and only resource that we have. That is our people. That's why we have compulsory but absolutely brilliant education for 10 years. We have a resistance to welfare. We already have not enough. If we're going to give out things for free, we are going to kill ourselves, right? That's why we don't have payouts. We don't have minimum wage. That's why we have things like CPF. CPF is not us giving you money. CPF is you saving your own money. It is compulsory for you to save your own money. Many helping hands. Our organizations, our government supports every single Singaporean because that is all we can do. The government is not a service provider. The government maintains their strict authority as an authority should. And it is not driven by citizens' rights. Right? This is a government that, like it or not, does what is right, not what is popular. And if you ever study political science, you will know that governing cannot be always about what is popular because more often than not, what is popular is trash, is wrong, is going to collapse the country. So a government needs to do what is right, not what is popular. Okay? And last but not least, it is a service-driven industry. We are focusing on tertiary services, banking, finance, all these things, tourism, tertiary services. Okay? We also have wealth as security. For example, GIC Temasek, which has been in news recently. We are using our sovereign wealth fund as a national defense mechanism, right? We are saving so much money because when the day comes when we need to take the money out, we have more than enough money. Remember the context of prosperity? Remember the fear mindset? This is what it is. Meritocracy. Merit based on success, best with our scarcity. We only allow the best of the best because if not, we have nothing. If our people are not the best of the best in the whole entire world, then Singapore will lose its competitive advantage. That is why you are so stressed. That is why you are panicking right now for your promos. Because you have been educated with the mentality that you need to be the best of the best. And it is true. If not, we will never be a success. In terms of politics, at that point in 1965, we just came out of uncertain regional politics. We came out of the Cold War. We came out of British decolonization. We came out of the Malayan emergency. We came out of the threat of communism. Right? So it was very, very messy, which is why PAP has been so successful. Even though they have a supermajority since the year 1959, even though they use Internal Security Act, they use strong arm tactics, why do people support them? Because they have been successful, because they have changed a tumultuous political landscape into something into a country where the politics is one of the most stable politics in the whole entire world. And recently, if you saw a Pew survey that was done just a few days ago, unlike all our compatriots in the neighboring nations, Singaporeans actually prefer a strong leader over democratically elected governments. Why? Because they have seen the true benefit that a strong leader gives. Okay? Again, this is not support for PAP. Why do people support PAP? It's because they have been successful. Nobody can deny that the government of Singapore has been successful in almost everything it does. But attitudes are changing. So this is the today context. I'm not going to speculate about the future because I don't know. But all I know now is that this idea of politics has been very successful. Okay, and progressive management ensures that PAP continues to transfer leadership to the younger generations. Institutional control ensures that every part of the government, every part of the public service is controlled so that nothing goes awry. Okay, and last but not least, survival. 1965, we were very scared, very tense. There's a failure-averse country. We cannot fail. We are victim of colonization. We are victim of communism. We are very complex situation. We are overly dispersed. We are too diverse. It was very tense. But today, we have managed to achieve trust, forgiveness, common identity, possibilities, opportunities, and we have an overall very stable country. So things have changed. But some attitudes have not. So use this to your advantage when you talk about it in your society context. Why does Singapore do certain things? Use it in collaboration in your meta context. You will do well for in your society or even AQ questions. Okay? And now to the part that all of you are waiting for. I know it's been an hour, okay? But again, if you didn't want to learn about meta, you can skip that, of course. Okay, structure a paragraph is very simple. 20 minutes to plan. No more, no less. Okay? 10 minutes to write each paragraph. Basic format, this is for those of you that cannot get used to a more deeper level analysis. No worries. Okay, let's do something that is more simplistic but still very, very used to. Something that you're very used to. Okay, in this format, do take note there's a support versus challenge. Support versus challenge that must be shown. Okay. And I'm going to caveat first. Please do not get confused if you're doing the TEEL format. Do not get confused with the enhanced format. The enhanced format has a completely different consideration. Again, I advise all of you to eventually move to the enhanced format by A levels, but at the very least, the basic format has support and challenge, so you need to understand that. Okay? Topic sentence, you must address the debatable issue. You must support or oppose, and it must be measured, nuanced, and subtle. Okay? Simple. Explain it by justifying, giving your reason to support the topic, and showing your concept. This means that you need to argue it from a large range, wide range, large breadth. Okay? Large breadth. You need to do that. If not, your justification becomes very, very, very poor. Example. Give relevant and specific examples. Show me, explain to me how this actually proves your point. Again, you need to be wide-ranging. You need to be appropriate. Okay, you don't give me something that's irrelevant. You don't give me something that is too specific, like a name. Please don't give me a name. If you just quote, oh, this person did this, I don't care. It's too specific already. It doesn't tell me anything about the world. It doesn't show me your range. So don't quote examples like that. Okay, it's not necessary to use statistics because statistics are ridiculously difficult to remember. Okay? And link. You must link your paragraph at the end all the way back to the overall stance of your whole entire essay. You do not just repeat the essay question. You do not repeat the topic sentence. You must show me the justification inside your link. Therefore, because of this, I believe... No, don't say I. Therefore, because of this, this happens. This is my conclusion. Okay? So you must link it all together. Again, the flow matters within the paragraph. Okay? For basic format, the flow matters more in the actual paragraph itself than in the whole essay. Right? Now, this is the one I recommend for most. If you want to do well, this is the one you use. Right? This will help you to achieve the range that Cambridge has set out in your conceptual understanding. like I said, this paragraph format have no support versus challenge. There's no such thing as support and challenge. You are providing individual strong argument for effect, and I want to analyze intent. So no need to challenge your overall stance. No need to say agree because of this, disagree because of this. No need. Useless. Useless. Okay? So look at it as individual arguments. Argument, 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 argument. Not for against. No. Individual arguments. Alright? Based on different discussion point. Topic sentence here, I don't need you to have a clear stance. I need you to simply answer the question by telling me what you want to discuss. Okay? Answer the question by telling me what you want to discuss. Okay? So it should be broad. It should be generalized, not specific. Okay? Context 1, context 2. This is where your balance is addressed directly. The perspectives in the issue is addressed here. What I'm doing is presenting you with different contexts from different parties, different perspective. Can be majority believe this, but minority believe this. Can be in the past we believe this, in the present we believe this. Can be absolutely yes. Some people believe absolute because why? Most people don't believe absolute because what's the reality? That is what I mean by context. That is where you are going to analyze the different issues, the different perspectives when it comes to this discussion point. Okay? For basic polarity, this is your yes versus no. For temporal, this is your past versus present. For significance, this is your significant versus insignificant. For absolute, this is absolute versus reality. This is where your range starts to develop. This tells me, as the examiner, you know your stuff. You know what you're talking about. You have well read. You have a very strong understanding of what you're writing. Because I can see that you have considered many different perspectives before you wrote this essay. Okay? So topic, sentence, and context have nothing, absolutely nothing to do with you yet. Topic, sentence, and context has everything to do with the world outside. This is not your argument yet. This is the outside, the real world. This is giving me the conditions to start my stance. This is my context to my stance. Okay, so topic, sentence, context, everything to do with the real world. Everything to do with the real world. Okay, evaluation. This is where you start to come in. This is where you as the author start to justify your point. Evaluation, you tell me what is your opinion. Not say agree, disagree. Just tell me what you think. Tell me what you believe in. Okay? You can agree or disagree with the different people in your context, but you have to eventually justify. Just tell me, this is what it is. Okay? I believe in this because this is why. Okay? That's all. That is all. Okay? So this is your time. This is your time to shine, right? So give me your stance. Tell me, oh, this is what is happening. I assert that this is what is happening. Right? You are not agreeing or disagreeing again. I'm telling you, this is my individual argument. I am asserting in this discussion point, I assert that this is what is the truth. This is what is happening. This is what I believe in. Okay, so because there's no agree or disagree mindset, you are looking at it as an individual argument. Okay, you can find your stance based on the context. No problem, you can agree. In fact, it's easier if you agree. Okay, but the main thing is you have to justify why this is correct in your mind. Tell me why is it correct in your mind. Same thing for example. Example is the same as before. Same as the basic paragraph. You must still be relevant. You must still be specific, but not zooming in into something that's too small. It must be wide-ranging. It must apply to a large context. Okay? And you must give your essay the strength and credibility. If you're using an example that's so weak, your essay drops instantly. It drops. Okay? Again, no need to use statistics. Okay? No need to use statistics. Okay, link. I want you to use the link as something for you to remind the remind the reader of your stand and why is it valid. I believe this because this is the case. Therefore, my argument is correct. Okay, don't actually write your argument is correct. Just make it seem like that is what you're telling the audience. I'm justifying it like that because I believe that it is correct. This is 100% correct in my view. Okay? Yeah, remind the reader of the question posed. So link it back lah. Use some of the keywords in the question lah. Okay, very simple, very very simple. Like I said, it is not a huge jump. Again, if you're not using this paragraph structure for promos yet, you haven't used it yet, don't use it for promos. Use the original structure. But you're confident, you want to do well. Here you go. Here you go. Okay. Okay, so that is it. This is a sample response. Like I said, you can go and look at it. I've neatly characterized all the main key things in the recommended structure in terms of color for you to look at. Okay, so you can go and see how it works. This essay I think got 40 plus. I don't remember. Okay, about 40 something like I don't know. Okay, but yeah, it's not too bad. I'm quite proud of it. But there are some things that can be better, of course. Right? Yeah. So this is the meta problem. If you are interested, for those of you that want to do meta, okay, this is something that you can take a look at. Yeah. Okay, in terms of language, ignore this point. Yeah, it's basically all of this lah. Okay, so make sure you vary your sentence structure. I think that's the easiest one you can use. Okay, it's already too long, right? But yeah, so I hope you have understood a little bit more what it means and how to think, or not how to think. Yeah, how to think actually, not what to think, how to think. Okay, go and use it in whatever way that works for you. Okay, go and think about it in whatever way works for you, especially the meta points. That is up to your own interpretation. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much, people. Have a good revision ahead, and all the best for your upcoming assessments. All right.